All right, welcome to the inaugural edition of CFB Recruiting Weekly. My name is Bruce Badgley. I'm joined by Andrew Cohen, who's the owner of Get Recruited Consulting, and also Marty Fine. Marty, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're doing related to recruiting and players.
The man behind the mask. I'm thrilled to be here with you, Bruce and Andrew, both. To be in the presence of greatness is always an honor. I'm a retired 40-year college football coach. I coached in the biggest leagues in the stadium. I was in the Big Ten and in the Big 12 and at the United States Naval Academy, and I've coached in some of the biggest games. I was also a 21-year small college head coach, 1AA in Division II, and now I'm the vice president of development for offense, defense, football camps and events. And we host events and get the video out to help kids get recruited.
Wow, we appreciate you joining us tonight, Andrew. I mean, for all of the new viewers, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing, a little bit of your history related to college football and coaching.
Sure. Well, again, thanks a lot, Badge, for getting this organized, and thank you very much, Coach Fine, for being on a call. He brings an unbelievable amount of experience and success as a football coach. So for me personally, I was also a college football coach for over 20 years. I coached in the Ivy League at Columbia University. I also coached in the Patriot League at Bucknell and Fordham University, and then Stony Brook, which is a CAA school, very good program. And then at the Division III level, I was at Hamilton and Bowdoin. So had some great experiences, all very strong academic schools. Coaching goes in my family. My brother's a coach at Wake Forest, and my dad was a high school, middle school coach for almost 30 years. But, that's my quick background. I just started 7 years ago now. Yeah, I'm getting old.
Wow.
7 years ago, I started Get Recruited Consulting, where we help place student athletes into college. We use our contacts to your advantage. So it's been a lot of fun and very rewarding starting that business, and we've had a lot of success getting kids to great schools all over the country. From there, I just want to give a shout out that we're going to have December 7th, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., a recruiting showcase in Scranton. All that information's on our site. You'll have access to that. But we already have 55 colleges confirmed to attend, and I'm pretty sure there'll be over 60 when the time comes. So That's something for 20 graduates from the 22, 23, 24, and 25 class as well. So thank you for this opportunity. Excited to talk some more tonight.
Well, good. I mean, the topic that, the show is about tonight is what's the best way for some of these kids to be noticed? And the first thing, I mean, you brought it up, is camps. I mean, a lot of these kids are going out and, attending camps, and, there's a lot of guys at these camps. What are some of the things, Marty, that, you as a Division I, college coach, that you look for, or that when you sent your assistants out, to look at some of these kids, what were some of the things that you always focused on that would get your attention?
Well, two things, Bruce. First is I recommend to everybody, if you can get with an offense defense group or a Get Recruited group, if you can get around professional people to help you with the process, it makes the process much more manageable. Parents and even times some high school coaches just haven't done the process enough to be great at it. So if you can get in with the Get Recruited group or an offense defense group, and we're working together on some events, then you have an expert in your corner. Everybody thinks they can fix their car right up until they pull out some nuts and bolts and can't get it back in the right places. And even though it's your child we're talking about, to get them recruited it takes some expertise. And so that's the first thing I recommend to folks. And the second thing is go to camps when you're younger that can help you with your skill development and where colleges are going to see you. And now we're a full contact group. We have more than 30 events a year with offense, defense nationwide. We run bowl games in the winters. We're in SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles at Christmas time, and then we're in Jacksonville at the Jaguar Stadium in February. So we run big events in big stadiums for the kids. It's a great experience. And we started at 7 years old. So, and
Wow.
and we send that video to all the colleges that recommend kids to us. We get it to all the parents to send out, and it's great video. There's three things that are going to be looked at. Your one is athletics, because if you're not a good enough player and you don't have the height, weight, speed for certain levels, then that's going to eliminate you. If you're a great player, they're going to find you. And you hear everybody say that, but when you're going to go play at all the schools Andrew mentioned, I was at similar schools. I was at Colgate, I was at Indiana State, I was the head coach at Bryant, head coach at Sonoma State. I was head coach at Western New Mexico University and New Mexico Highlands University in the Division II League. So when you're going to be at those schools, there are too many kids. There's 1 million kids playing high school football. You need some expertise and some guidance to be in front of the right people. And go to Andrew's combine. Was that December 7th, you said, Andrew?
Yes.
And go to our camps. At our camps, we have all Division II and III college coaches coaching the kids. And so you're in front of the right people with all of them evaluating you and getting a look at you. And we're going to put on free clinics at ours with Andrew and some financial services people to help the families with how to get into the colleges, how to get seen by the colleges, and how to pay for the colleges.
Well, Andrew, obviously, we became, connected by the fact that I was impressed with the way that, that you're running your camps. Why don't you talk a little bit about the philosophy that you have in putting together your camps and how it showcases these players?
So the philosophy to start is to get these kids exposure. So we want to get as many colleges there as possible. We will have Division III, Division II, and FCS coaches there in December. From there, we want to have a good number of student athletes, but not too many where it becomes you're just a number and the coaches can't really evaluate you. So at most of our events, we're in that 125 kid range. So you want to make sure you're going to camps where you're getting a lot of reps and you're getting coached as well, coached by people that understand the techniques. We'll have both college and high school coaches, but mostly high school coaches. That way the college coaches can do evaluations. That's ours. I mean, I think that Marty's offense defense camps are outstanding, and I think they're really good for development. Ours obviously can't hurt for development, but mainly though it's to get a young student athlete recruited. So going to a camp that lots of colleges that they're going to be there, go to a camp that doesn't have too many numbers, and then also going to a camp that is going to have your son, the student athlete, showcase his abilities. So at our place, we'll have testing. We'll have the 40, the 5-10-5, the broad jump, height, weight, all that fun stuff. But we'll also do NFL combine drills, and we will also do one-on-one drills, and we'll also have a college fair. So the kids are told to bring their transcripts, and then from there, they get to meet the college coaches in person.
The college fair, to me, and the way that you ran that, I thought was so outstanding, because it really gave, with the kids with their transcript in hand, meeting with the coach, the first thing, right, wrong, or indifferent, the first qualifier are grades, right, guys?
For sure.
Well, I'm going to jump in. You hear people say academics come first, and I'm not one that follows, because I don't believe that's the case. I think that the thing to teach young people is to prioritize life, because if you're a father, you're also an employee, an employer, a father, a son, a husband. You're all these things at once, and no one is more important than another. And so if you're a great student, but you can't play a lick, you're not going anywhere. And if you're a great player and a bad student, you're not going anywhere. It's your ability to have both, and more things than that. You have to be socially acceptable. You can't be in trouble. Nobody wants to deal with that in this day and age. You have to be careful about your social media. So academics are important. Athletics are important. Your social graces are important. How you handle yourself is important. And at Andrew's event, you get to be around those college coaches. At our event, you get to be around those college coaches. The biggest difference for us is we are the oldest full contact group in the world. We're more than 50 years old. There was a time we were the full contact camp sponsored by the NFL Coaches Association. So for us, we don't height, weight, We don't put you on the drills that Andrew is doing. And I think there's a great place for in our world. We're the opposite end. We play football. We put you on a team. We teach you a handful of plays, and we go play in NFL stadiums and video it, and you get to showcase the talents you have. And the combination of those two things, and your academics, and your socialization, and your comportment, as they called it when I was a child, all those things come together to find the right place for you. The best thing Andrew does, and we do, I coached 40 years. So I was at Indiana University in the Big Ten. I was at Iowa State in the Big 12. I was at the United States Naval Academy. I was a head coach at Bryant University for 13, 14 years, whatever it was, where we beat Stony Brook and we beat Bucknell and so you've been places where we had great success. And so if I pick up the phone and say, I have a young man interested in your school, the people are going to listen to me. And when Andrew picks up the phone and calls all the people he's been with over the years, people are going to listen. I have 17 former coaches and players coaching major college football right now, big Power 5 football. And if I call those guys up, I at least get a phone call back. And that's different than the people that are sending out emails. Those are deleted and gone on to the next day. So the services both of us are doing when we're trying to help children is a personalized deal. And to me, that's the most important part of what we're doing. It's not how high, how tall, how fast. It's the fact that we can look at you, give you honest evaluations. Andrew can look at you, give you an honest evaluation, and help you get to the right folks. That's the best thing we're doing in recruiting to help kids.
What is the best thing that you can tell a student athlete right now in picking a camp? What is the overriding thing that when they're going to choose a camp, that's what they should use to evaluate whether they should or shouldn't go to a camp?
Well,
Andrew?
What are their goals, though? Is this for a kid who wants to get developed the most, or is it for a kid who wants to go be seen by the most college coaches? Like, if you're a 2022 or 2023 grad, I truly believe your time needs to be spent on going to a camp where there's going to be a lot of college coaches, and they're going to be asking you to do things that can showcase your talents for those college coaches. And then I think if you're talking about, and at our camps, they're going to get developed, but mostly it's recruiting, to be 100% honest. And then if you're a 24 or 25, you got to really be going to camps that maybe are multiple days, like an offense, defense, where they can truly sharpen their tools and get better. Does that make sense? So there's a need for both. There really is, and that's why we're on the show together.
And that's the other thing is, I don't mean to interrupt you, but it's how old are you and where are you in the recruiting process? If you're 10 years old, you shouldn't go to the University of pick a place, Michigan. There's 1,500 kids and you're 10 years old. You're not there to be recruited. That's not the right fit. If you're 10 years old and you need to work on your stance and your start and your first step, and you've never worn equipment, you need to go to a place where they're going to teach you how to put on your shoulder pads and make sure your thigh pads are in correctly so you walk right when you're older. So, really is where you in the process becomes the most important part. I think that when you're to the point when you're a junior going into your senior year, and there are people that are already recruiting you, and you believe that those are the right kind of schools for you, that's where you should go. Whether that means Miami or Bucknell or Hamilton College, you may shoot for one that's above you a little bit, but by then you're kind of declared at the level you're going to play at, especially if you have some expert guidance like from Andrew. And then you go to those places and put your best foot forward.
I truly, and I'm sorry, I truly believe that for recruiting, when I work with my clients and they say what camps to go to, I think there's two types. There's the camp that have a lot of college coaches there, and those can be good, and make sure the source is legitimate. Like, I have a history. Everyone knows if I say colleges come, they do come. But if you're going to go to one school's camp, then you need to make sure that school has legitimate interest in you. So like Marty coached at Indiana, which is major college football, Big Ten. And if you go in there thinking you're just going to impress them and get recruited, you're off base there. You need to have contact with them before you get to camp and make sure that someone on their staff is directly telling you that they have real interest. That's where Get Recruited comes in. We personally call these coaches and find out if they have real interest in you or not. And if you just show up and think you're going to turn them on because you're this great player, unfortunately, they can't watch everyone. They know who they like in advance. So I would never go to a camp without knowing they have sincere interest. So,
And that's where really the expertise that you provide the children is different. Are you trying to develop your skills? In which case, our full contact camps are as good as there is in the world, because we are in full pads and we're training you to be a better football player, as opposed to, boy, Iowa State University really likes you. If you get to their place and perform at a high level, you have a chance to walk away with a 4-year scholarship. And so every child is going to be different, and every opinion is going to be a little different. But I think the opinion that never leaves is that having expert guidance can only help.
So really the overriding factor is do your homework and make sure that if you're going to invest the time and money in a camp, that, you know, you've done your homework to make sure that it is a good investment.
That it's the right one for you and your child. That is absolutely 100% correct.
Okay. That's really good stuff, guys.
One quick one too, like,
Sure.
we're always talking as coaches, whether it's Marty and I or Badge and I, about like, you know, like what are you looking for in a kid at camp? I mean, there's obvious things. You want size, you want speed, and all those things. Those kids stand out. But the good coaches out there, the college coaches, they like the camps because they can see how a kid competes. So when you go to these camps, to stand out, that means finishing every drill at full speed, trying to win everything, listening careful to what the coach says. So not only can you listen, but then you can apply that skill. And I think I call that coachability. So, you know, we've had kids that we used to call them drill killers. You know, you try to teach them something and they screwed up the drill for everyone. And then you have the kid that you teach him once and he gets it and then he executes it. So you definitely can stand out by obviously all your physical skills doing great, but your effort, your coachability, your toughness, and then also being a leader by being positive and not only pushing yourself, but pushing others around you. So I think those are things that can be done to help you stand out when you're going to any of these showcases.
Bruce, may I jump in, please, sir?
Sure. Go right in.
Again, I was the head coach for a long, long time. And so to me, when I had you on my campus, or I'm running the camps for offense, defense, and I'm going to recommend you to people, I want to know the obvious measurables that you get at Andrews Combine. He sends to everybody, and we know how tall you are and how fast you are. So those aren't things I'm worried about at my camps per se. But I used to do things like I would have a little kid drop his tray in the lunch line. And I want to see, do you push him out of the way and keep going to get your hamburger, or do you help the little kid? We would have a fire drill. And I want to see, do you help the little kids get outside, or do you ignore it and hide? I want to know what kind of person you are when no one's looking. I want to know, because when you come on my campus, no one's going to be watching you all the time, but I'm going to be held accountable for how you behave. So I want to know what kind of person you're going to be when you don't think anybody's watching. Mm-hmm. And so if we say, everybody clear the field and do something, we know who to watch, because I want to know if you did what we said. Mm-hmm. So if you won't do what you said when you're on your best behavior, what chance do I have of you doing that when no one's really watching and you're on in Saturday night at 2 a.m? So there's a lot of things that happen. There's a lot of things that happen at the camp, both on the field to be competitive and off the field to be a great citizen.
That's great stuff, Coach. Great stuff. You know, camps are only one portion of this. You know, obviously most of the time anyway, it is a remote aspect to recruiting, you know, where you're trying to get a hold of these coaches and what have you. So, you know, Marty, talk a little bit about some of the keys that you felt from kids who wanted to come to school where you were the head coach, that you took a look at and looked favorably on.
When you say that, rephrase that question for me, Bruce.
You don't have any face-to-face contact with anybody. You know, somebody's living in Ohio and you want them to come to Bryant College in New England. What are some of the factors that student athlete can do to get attention to you that I want to come to your college?
Yeah, I have to tell you what I did was I put my trust in people that I knew. So when Andrew called me up and said, I have one that fits you, that gave me pause. If it was a high school coach, somebody had played for me, somebody who was an alum of ours, when those people spoke up and put their name on somebody, that carried a lot of weight. I've recruited 48 states. I've coached in 46 states. So, I've been across a lot of people, and what happens is you develop a trust. One of the best high schools in Florida won the 8A state championship is Columbus High School. I had 7 of those kids come play for me. The coaches there are people that I know and trust. And so when they say, hey, this is a young man you could take seriously, you can believe in, I put my name on, that to me was the starting point. And that's the best thing that Andrew does, is that his name and reputation are so good in our coaching circle. His family name is so good in our coaching circle that when he does call you, you take it seriously. Whereas the electronic things, they don't hold as much weight, because what anybody can write anything on a piece of paper. So to me, it was the professional contacts, professional approach of people. I would take those calls, maybe not that minute, but I would always make those calls a priority for our staff. So I think it's the people that matter the most. The other thing, when it's of distance, as a Division I coach, you say, look, we're going to come and see you as soon as the recruiting calendar allows. And you encourage them, get on our campus as soon as you can. We're awfully proud of what we have and what we built. And so that's why there's such a big arms race in college football everywhere, because everybody's proud of the things they're building. And you want to show that off to the young people. With today's, you can walk around campus with a FaceTime and show them your stuff when they're at distance. But I don't think you pick a college. Every college has red brick buildings and computers and screens that pull down, and everybody has that stuff. I think it's more about people, and I think that's the reason that Get Recruited is such a good commodity in our world. I sound like I'm a commercial for him, and I'm not. I do business with Andrew. I've never been in his presence. I've never had a cold beverage or an adult drink, but I've used his service and services like his. But he's the best because he actually coached for a long time. Most of them are not and have not. And so they take a young fella and inflate abilities, whereas Andrew's honest enough to say, no, you're a Division I AA player. You're not going to Miami. And I think that gives him a certain credibility that's very hard to find in our world.
Wow, that's good stuff. High praise there, Andrew.
I really appreciate that, Marty, and that's why we get along. We're straight shooters. We tell you the way it is. So I'm just thinking of the question you asked him and some other things. I think he's right on. Like, we both coached for a while, recruited for a while, and you depend on certain people that you trust. And you typically don't trust initially. And then when they prove themselves that they're trustworthy, you do trust them, whether it's a high school coach. And I think all the high school coaches in the country have the right attitude, and they're trying to help their kids, and they fall in love with their kids, which is typical. That's not a bad thing. But it's hard for them sometimes to realize a kid's not at a certain level because they see him every day, how productive they are, and they want that kid to play at a high level. You know what I mean?
Or more important than that, Andrew, is he might be of that level, but I might not have a need for that. They don't know what my needs are.
Yes. And also, I tell everyone this story, and it's not BS. Like, I'm recruiting a kid, I'm at Columbia, but the other coach on our staff brings in a better kid. That doesn't mean the kid that I'm playing can't play for us, but he's just the second best in our order. So there's a lot of kids that could play for you at Bryant or me at Bucknell or Columbia or whatever the school is, but they can only take so many. Like the Ivy League, for instance, used to be 30 takes a year. By the way, they're down to 28 takes a year. That's what they've changed a little bit. But what are they taking then? One kid at each position pretty much. And so it's very competitive. And there's a lot of great ones out there that you'd like to take that you can't. But to get back on the subject, so there's the college coaches aren't going to trust. Initially, they're not going to trust you unless they know you. So you have to build that trust. So like for us at Get Recruited, we tell a family, like Marty said, up front, what level they can play. And that's the level we send their information. If we think I'm not sure, but they're close, then we do it. And because of that, the schools respond to us because they know, hey, if they're sending us something, then he must be pretty good. Just this week, we lost 2 or 3 clients because they wanted me to say their kid was Division I. Unfortunately, they weren't Division I players. So I had to tell them the truth. It wasn't a bad conversation, but I have to be honest, you know? So what I'm also leading into is, as a college coach, when you hear or when you read an incoming information and it says he's 6'3", you're assuming as a college coach, he's probably about 6'1", 6'1.5". Would you agree, Marty, on average, about 1.5 inches difference than what they say?
Probably.
Okay. The weight is probably a little more accurate, but still a little bit off. So my quick suggestion for you is, you know, if you want to be a scholarship player at the FCS or FBS level, is that you make a video of yourself with your height in a doorway with a tape measure and a close-up and a straight edge, and then have your scale, and then do a quick workout for your position. So my brother's at Wake Forest, ACC, on the defensive side of the ball, he's like, you got to be able to jam a basketball. We want to see athletes. We want to see explosive people. That's just a quick example of something that you would show on film. But I think that's, you know, when you're remotely, like when they are going out this year, thank God, the college coaches, but last year they didn't. And they were asking everyone for height, weight, and a workout video. So that way, if they didn't meet them, they can at least make a judgment off of those films. And I do think that's important. So hopefully that's helpful. Badge.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's really great. And so what are some of the tools, the best tools, Marty, that you think that kids can utilize in, obviously beyond the personal element that you talked about, having an advocate who's contacting these coaches? What are some of the other things that these student athletes can utilize to, you know, get in front of you to have an opportunity?
Yeah, I think that's where the camps come in. I think the single best way to show you're a good football player is the video from your high school games, and then go to the right camps. Go to full contact football camps where you're playing the game. You know, at our events, we're going to have 300, 400, 500 kids, a majority of them seniors and juniors in high school. And, you know, the film at a lot of high school games is hard to watch, but a film from an NFL stadium on the 50-yard line is easy to watch and good to see, and is taken for recruiting purposes. So there's a lot of things like that you can do to put your best foot forward. If you were to say to me, because my son was a very good college player and was recruited, and so I have a little experience as a parent, and I was recruited. I got off an airplane on one of my 5 visits, and the guy said, "This is you, this is in the 70s." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, you're too short. You're not going to get a scholarship." I wasn't off the tarmac yet when he told me. Had a great weekend, but you know, back then they didn't see anybody. So you have to get in front of them. But the thing I say the most, and this is the hardest part, and especially in today's day and age, the parents are so wound up about these children that the hardest part of recruiting is the self-evaluation. They watch a game on the TV and they say, "Look, the receiver at Michigan was only 5'9", and I don't know, I'm making that up. And my son's 5'9", so he could play at Michigan." But that's an exception to the rule. There are some exceptions, but very, very few. And the hardest part is the self-evaluation. What am I really? What am I going to be really? What is my upside really? And to get around college coaches that will tell you the truth is worth its weight in gold. So at our place, when we do our evaluation of you, it's all college coaches, guys that played college football. Those evaluations are subjective, but pretty good. And same thing if you get a service like Andrews, where he's going to watch your film and meet you in person and say, "Okay, this is what you look like. This is what we see. This is the truth of the matter." That's very hard for parents. They all believe it's, you know, I'm going to go hit a gold mine and be a first-round draft pick. And in most cases, 99% of the cases, you're better off being an accountant. So let football help you get your education to better your life.
Yeah,
that's my message to all of them.
yeah. Andrew, I mean, you know, just some of the recommendations for, you know, obviously beyond having an advocate as yourself, what are some of the things these kids can be doing to, you know, to get noticed by these coaches?
I think there's a few musts, if you're talking from a physical standpoint. I mean, we've already said the obvious. You got to do great in school. That's just part of it. I think from an athletic standpoint, most of the kids get in the weight room and understand they need to get stronger. I think one of the things that's definitely missed out on is flexibility, not just in your muscles, not just in your hamstrings and your quads and your calves, but probably more importantly is your hips and your ankle flexion. The hip flexion, they want to see kids that can bend easily with their ankles and knees rather than bending over at their waist. So all these kids that you see, you know, their parents are saying, well, my kid's 6'3", 6'4", and he's 270, and that's great. It is, but they got to be able to move their feet and they have to be able to bend to play with leverage. When they get to college, all the linemen are big. And if you can't bend and transfer your weight, you're not going to be able to, A, as an offensive lineman, move them off the ball, or B, as a defensive lineman, get off the ball, attack them, jack them up, and then get off the block and make a play. So I think flexibility is enormous. Eating right is enormous. Sleeping. So like with our clients, we're on the phone with them depending on the exact situation, but either every week or every other week. And we find that we really help them develop. I try to tell kids early in the process and their families that it's great that you want them to get recruited, but I want to help you make your son the best product possible, athletically, academically, socially, his presentation, everything that I've mentioned. And I think then he'll have a chance to go at a higher level if he's willing to work with us. That developmental part, mentor part that we do is the part that I enjoy the most. I worked for a coach years ago and he said, what's your favorite thing to do as a coach? And my answer was, I love to be able to coach a technique or a specific scheme, and the young man follows through and does what you coached him to do and makes a play. Very satisfying. No different, right, Marty? Now you're getting to work with a kid directly. You know, he needed to gain weight. He needed to get more flexible. He needed to do all these things, and he did them. And because of that, he had a better opportunity. So I think that's huge. And then the last one, I mean, I can go on forever, is it's hard, but trying to have tunnel vision in this recruiting. You can't worry about the kid down the block or the kid on Twitter that gets an offer and you're better than him. And that happens, but you don't know the situation, but you're not going to gain anything from worrying about another kid. So what you need to do is make yourself the best product possible and control the things you can control. And that's all that matters. So
yeah, those are all great points, guys. I mean, this has been you know, quite the jam-packed, you know, half hour here. Obviously we're going to have to get Marty on again. You know, we've got plenty of topics that we're going to cover, you know, in the coming weeks and months. I mean, this is something that, you know, Andrew and I are going to carry on with very special guests, you know, every week with topics. And hey, look, you guys out there that are watching this show, you know, DM either, you know, Badgley Bruce or, you know, Get Recruited, you know, questions, topics that you want us to cover. This show is for you guys out there so that you can get scholarships. Okay. We definitely want to help you get recruited. And that's the reason for these shows. We started with getting noticed, and, you know, we'll have other topics, you know, like I said, in the coming weeks and months. But if there's something that you want to see, let us know. We'll definitely do the show. Right, Andrew?
I think that's great. It's definitely true. We want to help people. That's what we do. That's why Marty does what he does. And that's why I do what I do. We want to help kids reach their goals, reach their dreams. And we know how to help them do those things.
Yeah, I tell you what, Marty, it was a pleasure having you on here tonight on the inaugural show. I'm sure we'll have you as a regular contributor of, you know, CFB Recruiting Weekly. Listen, guys, I mean, we had a great first show. We'll be back next week. We'll have the topic out there in a couple of days. We're going to see what feedback we get from our initial show here and see what guys want to talk about. And that's what we'll talk about. So for Andrew Cohen, Marty Fine, I'm Bruce Badgley. Hey, listen, thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week.